Hi kiddos, it's Mrs. Skutnik here. I'm here to read the next few chapters in Wonder to you. There is a question on Google Classroom about our reading today, and the question is, how does Via feel about her brother August? So part 2 is all about Via and her point of view in what's going on in the story. So it says part 2, Via. Far above the world, planet Earth is blue, but there's nothing I can do. David Bowie, Space Odyssey. Here we go. A tour of the galaxy. August is the sun. Me and mom and dad are the planets orbiting the sun. The rest of the family and our friends are asteroids and comets floating around the planets orbiting the sun. The only celestial body that does not orbit August the sun is Daisy the dog, and that's only because her little doggy it's only because to her little doggy eyes, August's face doesn't look very different than any other human face. To Daisy, all of our faces look alike, as flat and pale as the moon. I'm used to the way this universe works. I never minded it because I always have it's all I've ever known. I've always understood that August is special and has special needs. If I was playing too loudly and he was trying to take a nap, I knew I would have to play with something else because he needed his rest after some procedure or other had left him weak or in pain. If I wanted mom and dad to watch me play soccer, I knew 9 times out of 10 they'd miss it because they were too busy shuttling August to speech therapy or physical therapy or a new specialist or a new surgery. Mom and dad would always say that I was the most understanding little girl in the world. I don't know about that. Just that I understood there was no point in complaining. I've seen August after his surgeries and his little face all bandaged up and swollen, his tiny body full of IVs and tubes, things to keep him alive. After you've seen someone else go through that, it feels kind of crazy to complain over not getting the toy that you asked for or your mom missing a school play. I knew this was even when I was 6 years old. No one just ever told me. I just knew it. So I've gotten used to not complaining, and I've gotten used to not bothering mom and dad with little stuff. I've gotten used to figuring things out on my own, how to put toys together, how to organize my life so I don't miss friends' birthday parties, how to stay on top of my schoolwork so I never fall behind in class. I never asked for help with my homework. I never needed reminding to finish a project or study for a test. If I was having trouble with a subject in school, I'd go home, study until I figured it out on my own. I taught myself how to convert fractions into decimal points by going online. I've done everything, every school project pretty much by myself. When mom and dad ask me how things are going in school, I always say good, even when it hasn't been good. My worst day, my worst fall, my worst headache, my worst bruise, my worst cramp, my worst mean thing anyone could have ever said, always been nothing compared to what August has gone through. This isn't me being noble, by the way. It's just me knowing the way it is. And this is the way it's always been for me, for the little universe of us. But this year, there seems to be a shift in the cosmos. The galaxy is changing. Planets are falling out of alignment. Next chapter. Before August. I honestly don't remember my life before August came into it. I look at pictures of me as a baby and I see mom and dad smiling, so happy holding me. I can't believe how much younger they looked back then. Dad was like this hipster dude and mom was this cute Brazilian fashionista. There was one shot of me at my 3rd birthday and dad's right behind me while mom's holding the cake with 3 lit candles and in the back of us was Tata and Papa, Grands, Uncle Ben, Aunt Kate, and Uncle Poe. Everyone's looking at me, and I'm looking at the cake. You can see in the picture how I really was the first child, first grandchild, and first niece. I don't remember what it felt like, because of course, but I can see it plain as the pictures can be in it. I don't remember the day they brought August home from the hospital. I don't remember what I said or did or felt when I saw him for the first time, though everyone has a story about it. Apparently, I looked at him for a long time without saying anything at all and finally said, "That doesn't look like a lily." That was the name of a doll Grand's given me when my mom was pregnant so I could practice being a big sister. It was one of those dolls that felt incredibly lifelike, and I carried it everywhere for months, changing its diaper, feeding it. I told it I would make a baby sling for it. The story goes that after my initial reaction to August, it only took a few minutes, according to Gran, or a few days, according to Mom, before I was all over kissing and cuddling him and baby talking with him. After that, I never so much as touched or mentioned Lily ever again. And this is going to be our, oh, no, not the last chapter. We're going to read 2 more chapters. Seeing August. I never used to see August the way other people saw him. I knew he didn't look exactly normal, but I didn't understand why strangers seemed so shocked when they saw him. Horrified, sickened, scared. There were so many words that could be used to describe the look on people's faces. And for a long time, I didn't get it. I just get mad, and mad that they stared, mad that they looked away. What the heck are you looking at? I'd say to people, even the grown-ups. Then when I was about 11, I went to stay with Grans in Montauk for a few weeks while August was having a big jaw surgery. This was the longest I'd ever been away from home, and I have to say it was amazing to be so suddenly free of all that stuff. It made me so mad. No one stared at Grans and me when we went down to the grocery stores. Nobody pointed to us. Nobody even noticed us. Grans was one of those grandmothers who do everything with their grandkids. She'd run into the ocean if I asked her to, even if she had on nice clothes. She would let me play with her makeup and didn't mind if I used it on her face to practice my face painting skills. She'd take me for ice cream, even if I hadn't eaten dinner yet. She'd draw chalk horses on the sidewalk in front of her house. One night, while we were walking back from town, I told her that I wish I could live here forever. I was so happy there. I think it might have been the best time in my life. Coming home after 4 weeks felt a little strange at first. I remember very vividly stepping through the door and seeing August running over to welcome me home. And for this tiny fraction of a moment, I saw him not the way I've always seen him, but the way other people see him. It was only a flash, an instant, while he was hugging me. I was so happy, and he was so happy that I was home, but it surprised me because I'd never seen him like that before. I never felt what I was feeling before either, a feeling I hated myself for having in that moment. But he was kissing me with all of his heart, and all I could do is see the drool coming down his chin. All of a sudden, there I was, like all those other people would have stared or looked away, horrified, sickened, and scared. Thankfully, that only lasted for a second. The moment I heard August laugh and his little raspy voice laugh, it was over. Everything was back to the way it was before, but it had an open door for me, a little peephole. And on the other side of that peephole, there were 2 Augusts. One I saw blindly, and the other one people saw. I think the only person in the world that could have ever I've told this to was Gran, but I didn't. It was too hard for me to explain over the phone, and I thought that maybe she'd come for Thanksgiving and I'd tell her what I felt. But 2 months after I stayed in Mantuck, my beautiful Gran died. It was completely out of the blue, and apparently she had checked herself into the hospital because she was feeling nauseous. Mom and I drove out to see her, but it was a 3-hour drive from where we live, and by the time we got there, Gran was gone. A heart attack is what they told us, just like that. It's so strange how one day you could be on this earth and the next day you're not. Where did she go? Will I ever see her again, or is this a fairy tale? You see movies and TV shows where people receive horrible news in hospitals, but for us, with all the many trips to the hospital with August, there's always been good outcomes. What I remember most from that day Gran died is Mom literally crumbled to the floor in slow, heavy sobs, holding her stomach like someone had punched her. I've never, ever seen my mom like that. Never heard the sounds that came out of her. Even through all of August's surgeries, Mom always put on a brave face. On my last day in Mantuck, Grans and I watched the sunset at the beach. We'd taken a blanket to sit on, but it got chilly, so we wrapped it around us and cuddled and talked until there wasn't a sliver of sun left over the ocean. And then Gran told me she had a secret to tell me. She said she loved me more than anyone else in the world. Even August? I asked her. She smiled and stroked my hair like she was thinking about it. I love Augie very, very much, she said softly. I can still remember her Portuguese accent and the way she rolled her R's. But he has many angels looking out for him already, Via. And I want to look out for you. Okay, Miana Kirada, I want you to know that you're my number one for me. You are my. She looked out into the ocean, spread her hands out like she was trying to smooth the waves. You are my everything. You understand me, Via? Tu es me todo. I understood her, and I know why she said it was a secret. Grandmothers aren't supposed to have favorites. Everyone knows that. But after she died, I held that secret and let it cover me like a blanket. And this will be the last chapter we read. August through the peephole. His eyes are about an inch below where they should be on his face, almost halfway down his cheeks. They slant downward at an extreme angle, almost like diagonal slits that someone cut into his face. And the left one is noticeably lower than the right one. They bulge outward because his eye cavities are too shallow to accommodate them. The top of his eyelids are always half closed, like he's on the verge of sleeping. The lower eyelids sag so much they look like a piece of string is pulling them downward, so you can see the red part of the inside, like they're almost inside out. He doesn't have eyebrows or eyelashes. His nose is disproportionately big for his face and kind of fleshy. His head is pinched in on the sides where his ears should be, like someone used giant pliers and crushed the middle part of his face. He doesn't have cheekbones. There are deep creases running down both sides of his nose to his mouth, which gives him a waxy appearance. Sometimes people assume he's been burned in a fire. His features look like they've been melted, like drippings on the side of a candle. Several surgeries correct his lip and few scars around his mouth, but the noticeable part being his jagged gash running from the middle of his upper lip to his nose. His upper teeth are small and splay out. He has severe overbite and an extreme undersized jawbone. He has a very small chin. When he was very little, a piece of his hip bone was used to make a lower jaw. He really had no chin at all. His tongue would just hang out of his mouth with nothing underneath it to block it. Thankfully, it's better now. He can eat at least. When he was younger, he had a feeding tube and he could talk. And he learned to keep his tongue inside his mouth, though it took him several years to master that. He also learned to control the drool when it used to run down his neck. These are considerable miracles. When he was a baby, the doctors didn't think he'd live. He can hear too. Most kids born with these types of birth defects have problems with their middle ears preventing them from hearing, but August can hear very well through his tiny cauliflower-shaped ears. The doctors think that eventually he'll need to wear hearing aids, though. August hates the thought of this. He thinks hearing aids will get noticed too much. I don't tell him that hearing aids will be the least of his problems, of course, but I'm sure he knows this. Then again, I'm not really sure what August knows and doesn't know, or what he understands and doesn't understand. Does August see how other people see him, or has he gotten so good at pretending not to see it that it doesn't bother him? Or does it bother him when he looks in the mirror and doesn't see what the Augie mom and dad see? Or does he see the Augie everyone else sees? Or is there another August he sees? Someone in his dreams behind a misshapen head or face? Sometimes I look at Grants and I could see the pretty girl she used to be underneath all the wrinkles. I could see the girl from Ipania inside the old lady walk. Does August see himself as he might have without having a single gene that causes catastrophe of his face? I wish I could ask him this kind of stuff. I wish he would tell me how he feels. He used to be easier to read before the surgeries. You knew that when his eyes squinted, he was happy. When his mouth went straight, he was mischievous. When his cheeks trembled, he was about to cry. He looks better now, no doubt about that, but the signs we used to gauge his moods are all gone. They're new ones, of course. Mom and Dad can read every single one, but I'm having trouble keeping up. And there's a part of me that doesn't want to keep trying. Why can't he just say what he's feeling like everybody else? He doesn't have a trach tube in his mouth anymore that keeps him from talking. His jaw's not wired shut. He's 10 years old, and he can use his words. But we circle around him like he's still a baby that he used to be. We change plans, go to plan B, interrupt conversations, go back on promises depending on his moods, his whims, and his needs. That was fine when he was little, but he needs to grow up now. We need to let him help. We need to let him help him and make him grow up. Here's what I think. We've all been spending way too much time making August think he's normal when he that he actually thinks he's normal. And the problem is, he is not normal. So the question is on Google Classroom, how does Via, his sister, feel about August? Please go over to Google Classroom and answer the question, and make sure you use examples from the story. All right, I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.